I'm Natalie Carter, 35, a residential architect who just finished building the modern villa I've dreamed of since grad school. After a decade of relentless hard work, tomorrow was supposed to be my housewarming celebration in Flagstaff, Arizona. But that plan blew up the moment I pulled into my gravel driveway this morning. There was my younger sister, Melissa, in sunglasses and heels, directing movers to haul her furniture inside my house. And next to her stood our mother, clipboard in hand like a foreman. "Oh, good. You're finally here," she said casually. "Melissa needs you out by Thursday. The wedding decorator needs full access by Friday." I stood there, stunned, my keys still dangling from my hand. Before I tell you how the villa I designed became the center of a family betrayal, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. And hit subscribe if you've ever had to reclaim what was rightfully yours. I've loved architecture since I was a little girl in the late 90s. While other kids built forts from couch cushions, I sketched floor plans with colored pencils and watched every home design show I could find. My favorite Christmas memory? The year I got a vintage drafting table at age 11. I worked my way through college waiting tables and picking up freelance design gigs. Melissa? She had her tuition covered, a new SUV at 18, and a study abroad semester in Florence. Our parents weren't rich, but they treated her like royalty while I learned to thrive on grit. After graduating, I joined a small firm in Sedona, slowly building a name for myself. Over the next 12 years, I climbed to lead designer, pouring myself into every blueprint and renovation. Meanwhile, I lived in a studio apartment with creaky floors and no central air, squirreling away every spare dollar. No expensive vacations, no takeout. I drove a beat-up Jeep from college until it practically fell apart. My fiancé, Ethan, gets it. He's a structural engineer I met on a project 4 years ago. "You're building something no one can take from you," he'd remind me whenever I questioned my path. 2 years ago, I found the ideal plot. 2 acres on the edge of the Coconino National Forest, surrounded by ponderosa pines and silence. It wasn't cheap, but I had my savings and secured a builder's loan for the rest. Every inch of that house is mine. Every beam, every finish. Or at least, it was. Until my sister decided it should be her wedding venue. For nearly 6 months, I poured my evenings and weekends into designing every inch of my dream villa. 3 bedrooms, a spacious home office, an open concept living and kitchen space with floor-to-ceiling windows to capture the Arizona sunsets, and a wraparound deck shaded by towering pines. I chose every material, down to the brushed brass handles in the kitchen and the reclaimed wood for the fireplace mantel. This wasn't just a house, it was the culmination of a lifetime of discipline, vision, and sacrifice. Every detail reflected a piece of my journey. The construction itself was a roller coaster. I hired Mason Rivera, a seasoned contractor with a reputation for perfectionism. Still, I was there almost every day, answering questions, troubleshooting, even rolling up my sleeves when needed. I'll never forget the day I spent laying handcrafted tile in the master shower. My knees sore, my fingertips raw, but my soul absolutely soaring. When material costs spiked unexpectedly, I picked up extra freelance work to cover the gaps. When the custom glass panels arrived the wrong size, I spent an entire weekend coordinating with the supplier and redrafting specs to keep us on schedule. A freak hailstorm damaged siding just before the install. I handled the insurance calls, the replacements, and the revised timeline. And my parents? They showed up exactly twice during the build. The first time, my father, Roger, muttered something about the wasted space and said, "It's too big for one woman." My mother, Elaine, clutched her purse like the exposed beams might collapse at any moment and asked, "You're sure you're not in over your head, Natalie?" Melissa came by once, with her fiancé, Brett. He was polite, asked questions about the radiant floor heating and rainwater catchment system. But Melissa? She barely glanced around before saying, "The kitchen island's oversized, and do people still use home offices?" Weird choice. I chalked it up to her usual passive digs and let it roll off me. Because I knew what I was building. Something grounded, enduring, and mine. After 14 months of dust, sweat, delays, and decisions, it was done. The day Mason handed me the final sign-off papers, I stood in the gravel driveway staring at the finished villa, the sleek roofline, the natural stone accents glowing amber in the fading light. It was everything I imagined. And more. "You earned this," Mason said, clapping me on the back. "I've built a lot of custom homes, Natalie. But this one has heart." Over the next few weeks, I moved in slowly, setting each piece exactly where I wanted it. Ethan helped me hang the artwork, arrange my books. One evening, as we watched the sky blush pink over the trees, he said, "This place? It's you. Strong, beautiful, thoughtful." And in that moment, I believed him. Beautiful, but functional. Just like its architect. That's what Ethan had whispered as we watched the sun set from the deck. The housewarming party was set for Saturday, a moment I'd dreamed about for years. It wasn't just about celebrating a finished home. It was about honoring everything it had taken to get here. I'd invited colleagues from the firm, my friends from Sedona and Flagstaff, a few kind neighbors, and yes, even my family. But I had no idea my younger sister Melissa had wildly different plans for my villa, plans that were about to crash into mine like a wrecking ball. I took the week off work to finalize every detail. I added wildflower planters near the walkway, strung soft white lights along the deck railings, and fluffed every pillow like it mattered. I wanted people to feel the warmth of this place, the story behind the stone and glass. On Tuesday evening, my phone rang. It was my mother, Elaine, confirming their arrival time for Saturday. But before I could respond, she added quickly, "Melissa wants to know if you'll walk us through the house again before the party. She and Brett just need a few more measurements," she added lightly. "Measurements?" I paused mid-step, rearranging wine glasses in the built-in I had designed myself. "What for?" "Oh, just to make sure everything will fit," she said vaguely. "They're meeting the wedding planner tomorrow, and Melissa needs to give her some numbers." It was the first time I'd heard anything about Melissa needing measurements of my house for wedding planning. Still, I agreed, assuming she just wanted inspiration for her future home. She and Brett had been engaged for 3 months, planning a spring wedding, and so far, she had dismissed every venue they'd toured as too basic. They arrived the next afternoon. My parents pulled up with Melissa, who stepped out in heels, flanked by her best friend Brooke. "This is my planner," she said casually, waving a manicured hand. My mom carried a binder labeled Melissa and Brett's Wedding. Immediately, Melissa glanced around and frowned. "The foyer's tighter than I remembered. Brooke, do you think the welcome table will fit here?" I blinked. Welcome table? Before I could ask more, my dad Roger clapped his hands. "Let's see the backyard again. I want to visualize where the tent might go." "Tent?" I led them out back, stomach tight. Melissa paced the lawn, gesturing dramatically, while Brooke snapped photos and scribbled notes. "This spot near the lake is ideal for the ceremony," Melissa said. "Dinner can go on the deck, then dancing in the living room." Finally, I spoke. "Melissa, are you thinking of having your wedding here?" She turned with a gleaming smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Of course. Didn't Mom tell you?" "Wouldn't it be perfect?" Melissa said, spinning slowly in the middle of my backyard like she was already walking down the aisle. "Brett's family is massive, and we need something special. No hotel ballroom could ever compare to this view." I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Melissa, this is my home. I just moved in. It's a family investment." My father, Roger, cut in abruptly, using a phrase I'd never heard him say before. "We should all benefit from it." Something in his tone sent a chill through me. Since when had my villa become a family investment? Before I could respond, Melissa had already swept through the French doors into my living room, Brooke right behind her. "This furniture will have to go," she said casually, waving a hand over my custom-built sectional, the one I'd designed to fit the space's angles and window lines perfectly. "We'll need at least 15 tables in here." I followed, growing more alarmed with every step. Melissa's tone had shifted. She wasn't making suggestions. She was making claims. In the primary bedroom, she turned to Brooke and said, "This will be perfect for the bridal suite, don't you think? Hair and makeup can go right along that wall." Then came the home office, my workspace, where I'd placed my drafting table to soak in northern light. Melissa whipped out a tape measure and started measuring the walls. "I think this could be a great nursery one day," she said lightly. "The light's beautiful." "Nursery?" My voice cracked as I looked between her and my parents. "Melissa, what are you planning?" Elaine, my mother, rushed in with that familiar tone of forced calm. "Oh, nothing is set in stone, dear. She's just exploring options. You have so much space here for just one person." The whole tour was like a fever dream. My dad kept tossing around words like shared legacy and family contributions, even though I had paid for everything. Every nail, every fixture, except for a temporary $50,000 loan from him during construction. A loan I had repaid, in full, 3 months ago. As they left, Melissa lingered behind, running her fingers over the Carrara marble waterfall island in my kitchen, the one I'd obsessed over for months. "You know," she said, smiling faintly, "Brett and I really need a place after the wedding. We've been looking, but nothing feels quite right." She glanced around meaningfully. "Not like this." Before I could respond, she added cheerfully, "Can't wait to see how you decorate. Though, if it were me, I wouldn't have picked those tiles in the master bath. That style's already phasing out." After they left, I called Ethan, still rattled. "Am I overreacting?" I asked. "Or was that really weird?" "Not overreacting," he said firmly. "Melissa's not wedding planning. She's house hunting." "But it's your house," Ethan reminded me gently. "You designed it, paid for it, and have every document to prove it. Don't let Melissa get in your head." I tried to shake off the feeling and focus on prepping for the housewarming. But that night, my sleep was restless. I dreamed I came home to find all my furniture gone, replaced by white chairs, floral arches, and Melissa standing in my kitchen, smiling smugly as she said, "Oh, didn't anyone tell you? This is my house now." I woke up in a sweat, heart pounding. The dream clung to me like fog, and as much as I tried to laugh it off, something about it felt too real to ignore. By Friday morning, the day before the party, I was back to being excited. I woke early, ready to tackle final preparations. I had one meeting at the office that couldn't be moved, but I planned to leave by noon, swing by the bakery and wine shop, and spend the afternoon setting everything up. At 11:30 a.m., I was wrapping up a presentation with a client. "Great work as always, Natalie," my boss said as the clients left. "You've seemed a bit preoccupied this week, but you nailed it." "Thanks," I replied, gathering my notes. "Just been focused on getting my new place ready for the housewarming tomorrow." "Ah, yes, the famous villa. Need a hand with setup?" I declined his kind offer and headed out. I picked up the dessert platter from a local bakery, then swung by a wine shop for a few extra bottles of Cabernet and sparkling rosé. My trunk was packed with everything I needed for the perfect gathering: centerpieces, cocktail napkins, appetizer trays, and small custom gifts, coasters with a watercolor sketch of the villa I'd commissioned from a local artist. But as I turned down my street, I noticed something strange. Unfamiliar cars lined both sides of the road leading to my home. A white van, marked Cactus Blossom Events, was backed up to my front door. Strangers were carrying boxes and folding chairs inside. My pulse spiked. I parked, grabbed a few boxes from the trunk, and rushed toward the front door. Inside, I froze. My living room had been rearranged, my custom furniture pushed to the edges, while 3 men measured the floor. Brooke, Melissa's planner, stood in the center giving orders. "The dance floor will go right here," she said, "and we'll move these bookshelves to clear space for the DJ." "Excuse me?" I said sharply, setting my boxes down. "What is going on here?" Brooke turned, startled. "Oh, you must be the sister. Melissa said you might stop by. Don't worry, we're being careful with your things." "My things? This is my house." Before she could reply, Melissa walked in from the kitchen, followed by Brett and some guy juggling catering trays. "Natalie," she beamed, "you're early." "We thought you'd be at work until later," Melissa said, blinking in surprise. I dropped the box of wine bottles on the entry table with a thud. "What are you doing in my house?" My voice rose. "Why are these people touching my things?" Melissa shot a glance at Brett, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "We're just planning the layout for the wedding reception," she said casually. "Don't worry, everything will be put back afterward." "Afterward?" My stomach twisted. I struggled to process what I was hearing. Melissa, I said firmly, I never agreed to host your wedding here. And I have my housewarming party tomorrow. Her smile faded. Her tone turned clipped. About that, we were thinking you might want to postpone. We need to finalize measurements and placement this weekend. The wedding's in 6 months and planning takes time. Before I could answer, the front door opened again. My parents walked in, Elaine clutching a familiar binder, Roger with his phone to his ear. Perfect, you're here, my mom said briskly. We need to go over the timeline. Melissa has to send out save the dates next week, so we've got to lock things in today. Lock in what? I asked, my voice sharp with disbelief. I haven't agreed to any of this. Roger ended his call and stepped toward me. Natalie, don't be difficult. This is a special time for your sister. I'm being difficult? I gestured around the house. My disassembled living room, the strangers in my kitchen, the folding chairs and stacked decor. You've all invaded my home without permission. It's not just your home, my father said coolly. It's a family investment. I stared at him. What are you talking about? I designed this house. I paid for every inch of it. I built it. My mother stepped in, her tone syrupy. Sweetheart, your father contributed significantly, and we've always said this would be a family asset. What? I took a step back. Dad loaned me $50,000. I paid it back, in full, 3 months ago. And we never discussed this house being a shared anything. That's not how your father remembers it, Elaine said softly, casting Roger a glance. I turned to him. Dad, what are you telling them? He shifted, eyes dropping. I covered most of the major costs. The land, foundation work, windows. That was all me. I stared at him, stunned. My voice barely came out. That's a lie, and you know it. That's absolutely untrue, I said, my voice trembling with rage. I have documentation for every expense, every bank transfer, every invoice, every choice. I paid for this house. The only outside money was that single loan, and I repaid it. In full. Families help each other, Natalie, my mother interrupted, her tone dripping with manufactured warmth. Your sister needs this house more than you do. You're just one person. She's starting a family. I blinked, stunned. What exactly are you saying? Melissa stepped forward and casually slipped her arm around Brett, who looked increasingly like he regretted showing up. Mom and Dad are giving us the house as a wedding gift, she said brightly. We'll move in right after the honeymoon. The floor felt like it dropped beneath me. You're giving away my house? The one I built? It makes sense, my father said, crossing his arms. Melissa and Brett need a real home. You can get a place in town, closer to work. I looked at each of them. Roger, Elaine, Melissa, searching for any trace of humor, any sign this was some sort of awful joke. But no one was laughing. This is insane, I finally choked out. This house is mine. The deed is in my name. You can't just give it away. The deed can be transferred, Roger said coldly. I've already spoken to my attorney. I caught Brett shifting beside Melissa. He cleared his throat. I think there might be a misunderstanding here. But Melissa cut him off, her smile sharpening. There's no misunderstanding. Dad promised us the house months ago. We've been planning the whole wedding around it. Months ago, I repeated, each word like a slap. You've been planning to steal my home for months? No one's stealing anything, Elaine interjected. It's a gift, Natalie, from the family, for Melissa and Brett. I turned slowly, taking in the chaos. My living room cluttered with event gear, Brooke calling out measurements, the caterer making notes at my kitchen island. Then I looked back at the people I once called family. My father with his hard jaw, my mother with her infuriating calm, my sister standing like she already owned the place. Everyone needs to leave, I said quietly, but with steel in my voice. Don't be ridiculous, Melissa snapped. We've got work to do. Your little housewarming can wait. It's not waiting, I said, louder now. It's happening tomorrow, exactly as planned. In my house. Because this is my house. And none of you have any right to be here without my permission. My father stepped toward me, his face flushed with anger. Natalie, You're being selfish and unreasonable. Your sister needs— I don't care what Melissa needs, I shouted, my composure finally shattering. This is my house. I designed it. I paid for it. I built it. The room went still. Even the event staff froze mid-movement. Then, to everyone's surprise, Brett spoke. You heard her, he said, glancing around. Let's go, Melissa. We shouldn't be here. Melissa spun toward him, disbelief all over her face. You're taking her side? I'm not taking sides, Brett replied carefully, but Natalie says this is her house. If she has the documents to prove it, we need to respect that. Mom? Dad? Melissa turned toward our parents, eyes pleading. Elaine looked visibly distressed. Roger stood stone-faced, arms crossed. This isn't over, Natalie, he growled. We'll talk about this later, as a family. There's nothing to talk about, I replied, voice low but unwavering. This is my property, legally, financially, and in every way that matters. Now please, leave. One by one, they began to gather their things. Brooke, flustered, directed the workers to start packing up. The caterer mumbled a quiet apology as he passed by me. Melissa paused at the door, eyes shining with angry tears. You've always been selfish, she snapped. You always put yourself first. This would have been perfect for us. Perfect for you, I corrected her. At my expense, as usual. When the last person was gone, I locked the door and leaned against it, the silence crashing down around me. I made it to the sofa before collapsing into it, the adrenaline fading, replaced by a sick wave of shock. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. We need to talk about this rationally. Your father is very upset. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Ethan. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. They tried to take my house, I said as soon as he answered. They really tried to give it away to Melissa. When Ethan arrived 20 minutes later, I broke completely. Sitting on the floor of my master bedroom, the same room Melissa had casually labeled as her bridal suite, I sobbed into his chest while he held me tight. I don't understand, I whispered between gasps. How could they do this? How could they think they had any right? Ethan stroked my hair gently, his voice steady but furious on my behalf. I don't know, Natalie, but they picked the wrong woman to mess with. It was beyond comprehension. The magnitude of the betrayal knocked the air from my lungs. Every sacrifice I'd made, every skipped vacation, every late-night blueprint revision, every dollar stashed away instead of spent, had all led to this. The moment my own family tried to rob me of everything I'd built. And it wasn't just about the house, though that alone was a staggering blow. It was about what it represented. My independence, my years of discipline, my quiet determination to succeed on my own terms. I stared up at the custom pendant light hanging over the kitchen island, the one I'd designed, sourced, and installed myself. 5 years, I whispered. 5 years of saving, planning, sacrificing, 14 months of construction. I was here nearly every day. I remembered the day they poured the foundation. I took off work just to watch it. I remembered sweating through the Arizona summer, installing kitchen cabinet hardware by hand because I wanted it perfect. I remembered the surge of pride when the final inspection passed and the certificate of occupancy was issued. And now they thought they could just gift it away? To Melissa? Like none of it mattered? My voice cracked as I turned to Ethan. Like my life, my work, meant nothing. His jaw clenched. They can't do this, Natalie. Legally, they don't have a leg to stand on. But why would they even try? I said, wiping my eyes with trembling fingers. Why would my parents back this? Why lie about paying for it? My phone buzzed again and again. I picked it up, text after text from my mother. Please call us. We need to discuss this like adults. Your father is very upset about how you spoke to him. Melissa is crying. I hope you're satisfied. Family comes first, Natalie. Each message sliced deeper than the last. I turned the phone off. A moment later, the doorbell rang. Ethan went to check, then came back looking grim. It's Melissa. She's alone. I wanted to ignore her. Slam the door. Let her stew. But part of me, some stubborn ache for closure, needed answers. I splashed cold water on my face, inhaled, and opened the door. Melissa stood on my porch, arms folded. Her eyes were red, but not remorseful. Her mouth was tight. "Can I come in?" she asked. "Why? To measure more rooms?" I said flatly. She sighed. "To talk. Just us." I hesitated, then stepped aside. We sat at the kitchen island, the one she had caressed like it already belonged to her. "Why, Melissa?" I asked quietly. "Why would you do this to me?" She looked everywhere but at me. "It's just not fair," she finally muttered. "You always get everything. The awards, the praise, the career, the respect. And now this house too? This amazing house?" Melissa said bitterly. "Get everything?" I echoed, stunned. "Melissa, I worked for everything I have." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "Mom and Dad paid for your college. They bought you a condo. They funded your lifestyle for years. Meanwhile, I've scraped and saved and sacrificed." "That's different," she shot back. "They helped me because I needed it." "You think I never needed anything?" I said, quieter now. "I needed support, not money, just emotional support, some recognition, a little pride in what I'd accomplished." Her eyes darted away. "Instead, Dad tells me I'm showing off. And Mom only ever asks when I'm going to settle down and be more like you." Melissa shifted in her seat, visibly uncomfortable. "They are proud of you." "They have a funny way of showing it," I muttered. I exhaled slowly, trying to stay calm. "But that still doesn't explain why you thought it was okay to take my house." She looked down at her hands. "Dad said it would be our wedding gift, that he contributed significantly during construction and had a partial stake." "That's a lie," I said flatly. "He gave me a short-term loan. $50,000. I paid him back in full, and I have all the receipts." "Well, that's not how he presented it," she mumbled, more defensive now. "He said it was an investment, that he had the right to give the house to us." I stared at her. "And you believe that? You actually thought it was okay to take the home I designed, built, lived in?" She straightened. "We would have compensated you." "Compensated me?" I slapped my palm on the counter, making her jump. "This isn't a rental. This is my life. The fact that you'd even consider taking it shows how little respect you have for me, or what I've built." Melissa's eyes welled with tears. I couldn't tell if it was guilt or just another ploy. "You don't understand. Jason's parents are paying for the whole wedding, but nothing after. They expect us to figure things out on our own. When Dad offered the house, it felt like the perfect solution." "Perfect for you?" I snapped. "Not for me." Ethan, who'd been silently standing in the doorway, finally stepped in. "Did Jason know about this deal?" he asked gently. Melissa hesitated. "Not exactly. He knew Dad was helping us look for something, but—" "He didn't know you were planning to take my house?" I finished for her. She didn't answer. That was answer enough. As the silence settled over us, her phone buzzed on the counter. A message preview lit up the screen. It was from our mother. "Is she being reasonable yet? Remind her about family obligation." The message lit up on Melissa's phone like a spark to gasoline. Something inside me snapped. Without asking, I grabbed the phone before she could stop me and began scrolling through her texts. What I found turned my stomach. There were months of messages between Melissa and our parents. Full-blown discussions about how they'd reclaim my house once it was finished. "Dad says the loan gives him leverage," one message read. "Mom thinks we should wait until after the housewarming to break the news," said another. "We'll need to repaint. That sage green in the guest room is hideous," a third one added. I scrolled further, heart pounding, bile rising. Melissa had taken photos during her visits. My kitchen, my home office, even my closet. Some were marked up with annotations. "Keep this couch," "Jason's closet," "Swap out these light fixtures." I stared at her, my voice hollow. "You've been planning this for months." I held the phone out to her. "All those times you criticized my design choices, you were already picturing how you'd change them." Melissa actually had the decency to look ashamed. "It wasn't like that," she whispered weakly. "Then what was it like?" My voice rose. "Explain to me how this isn't a betrayal of everything I've worked for." She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was nothing she could say. I drew in a sharp breath and stood tall. I think you should leave. She looked up at me, stunned. And tell Mom and Dad, they're not welcome here tomorrow. They're no longer invited to my housewarming. Natalie? No, I cut her off. This isn't a misunderstanding or a difference of opinion. This was a deliberate plan. You tried to take something I built from the ground up, something that took me years to achieve. I can't even look at you right now. She left without another word. After the door shut, I collapsed. The weight of their betrayal crushed me. I curled up on the bedroom floor, the one I'd once imagined as a sanctuary, and cried until I couldn't breathe. I can't do the housewarming, I told Ethan between sobs. I can't pretend everything's okay. I can't even look at this place the same way. He knelt beside me, hands firm on my shoulders. Yes, you can. This is your home, Natalie, your dream. Don't let them steal that too. But their presence haunted every corner. I could see Melissa measuring my office for a nursery. I could hear Roger claiming he'd paid for the windows. I could feel Elaine's dismissive tone, as if I didn't deserve the space I created. They were never proud of me, I whispered. The words hit harder than anything else. All these years, all my success, they never truly saw me. If you've ever had to stand alone to protect what you built, you're not alone. Hit subscribe and stay with me as I share what happened the next day at the housewarming, when everything changed. Ethan pulled me in closer. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. Your friends are proud of you. Your team at the firm respects you. Don't let your family's twisted view of the world define your worth. I nodded against his shoulder, but the weight of it all still pressed hard on my chest. The home I had once dreamed of, my personal sanctuary, now felt tainted. Every room echoed with Melissa's entitlement, my father's fabrications, my mother's quiet manipulation. How was I supposed to reclaim it? How could I move forward, knowing my own family had spent months scheming behind my back? And more importantly, how could I make sure they didn't try again? That night, I wrapped myself in a blanket and sat alone on the deck, staring out at the still waters of Lake Francis under a silver-blue Arizona sky. I tried to summon the joy I'd felt the day I first moved in, the pride, the freedom, but all I could hear was Melissa's voice. This would be perfect for us. Us, never me. That had always been the dynamic. I was the one expected to bend, to give, to sacrifice. But not this time. This house was mine, and I was done stepping aside. The next morning, I woke up with a fire in my chest. Ethan had stayed over, sleeping in the guest room just to make sure I wasn't alone. He brought me coffee in bed and sat beside me quietly. "What's the plan?" he asked gently. "First, get all my documentation in order," I said, sitting up. "Then call in backup." I called my best friend Rachel, and she showed up in less than an hour, absolutely livid. "They what?" "Natalie, no. Just no. This isn't happening." With Rachel and Ethan beside me, I got to work. I gathered every record. Bank statements showing my payments to the contractor. The land purchase agreement signed solely by me. Construction contracts with my name as the only client. The $50,000 loan agreement with my dad, dated and signed. A wire transfer receipt proving I repaid it, and even his text, "Got the money. You didn't need to pay interest, but thanks." Next, I called Mason Rivera, my contractor. "Natalie, how's the house treating you?" he asked cheerfully. "The house is perfect," I said, "but I need your help. Something's happened." I explained the situation. There was a pause. Then he said flatly, "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Your dad? He had nothing to do with the build except that one payment. And you paid that back. You made every decision. Every check came from you. I have all the records if you need them." "Would you be willing to put that in writing for me?" I asked Mason. "Absolutely," he said without hesitation. "I'll email you a full statement today. And, Natalie," he added, his voice firm, "don't let them bully you. That house is yours in every way that matters." I thanked him and hung up, feeling a little more secure. Next, I called my attorney, Lillian Chin, After hearing everything, she reassured me. This is straightforward. The house is titled solely in your name. Your father has no legal claim, especially since you repaid his loan. What about their claim that it was meant to be a family asset? I asked. She sighed. Unless they have documented proof of ownership rights, that claim is baseless. Verbal agreements don't hold up in real estate, and your evidence contradicts their story. With Lillian's legal support, I felt ready to face the emotional storm ahead. Rachel was firm. Don't let them steal your moment. The housewarming is your celebration. Your true friends will be there to back you up. I agreed, and we spent hours preparing for the party. As we worked, Rachel coached me on what to say if I had to confront my family again. Stay calm. Don't let them push your buttons. Stick to the facts. Remember, you hold all the cards. Around noon, while arranging flowers in the dining room, I heard a noise at the front door. Looking out the window, my heart skipped a beat. There was my mother, Elaine, struggling to unlock the door with a key I didn't know she had. "They're here," I whispered to Rachel, my pulse racing despite the preparation. "You've got this," Rachel said, squeezing my hand. "Ethan and I are right behind you." I walked to the door and opened it before my mother could realize the key wouldn't work. She looked startled to see me. "I changed the locks this morning," I said coolly. "Can I help you with something?" Elaine quickly composed herself. "We need to talk, Natalie. Your father and I were up all night, worried." Behind her, I caught sight of Roger, sitting in their car, phone pressed to his ear. There was no sign of Melissa. "There's nothing to talk about," I said firmly. "This is my house. I'm having my housewarming today as planned. You, Dad, and Melissa are not invited." Elaine's eyes narrowed. "That's exactly what we need to discuss." "Your father is very hurt by your attitude," Elaine said, voice soft but firm. "After everything he's done for you." "What exactly has he done, Mom?" I interrupted sharply, because I have all the documentation showing who paid for what, and it wasn't Dad. She hesitated, then tried a different tactic. "Family should support each other, Natalie. Melissa and Brett need a place to start their life together." "Then they can buy one, just like I did," I replied, voice steady. "Or Dad can buy them a home if he's so concerned. But this house is mine." My mother's expression hardened like stone. "Your father wants to speak with you. He's on the phone with his lawyer right now." "Good." I squared my shoulders. "My attorney is very clear. I have sole ownership. Dad has no legal claim." As we talked, I caught Elaine's gaze flickering past me, scanning the interior, the sleek countertops, the sunlight through the windows, the spaces she'd already started assigning to Melissa in her mind. "Mom?" I said firmly, turning to face her. "This house is not available, not for Melissa's wedding, not as her home, not as a family asset. It's mine. The sooner you all accept that, the better." Her expression was a strange mix of disappointment and calculation. "We're having a family dinner tonight at our place," she said. "Your father insists you come. We need to resolve this." I almost laughed at the absurdity. "I'm having my housewarming party tonight, as you well know. There's nothing to resolve. This house is mine, legally and morally. Natalie, I have to finish preparing for my guests." I began closing the door. "If Dad wants to talk, he can call me tomorrow. But be clear, this discussion will be about repairing our relationship, not about ownership of my home. That chapter is closed." After she left, I leaned against the door, shaking despite my confident words. "That went well," Rachel said, stepping from the living room, where she'd been quietly listening. "It's not over," I replied. "That was just the opening skirmish." All afternoon, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from both parents, and, surprisingly, from Brett. My parents' messages mixed guilt trips with vague legal threats. But Brett's was different. "Natalie, I had no idea about any of this until yesterday. I thought we were just considering your place as a wedding venue, not trying to claim it. I'm horrified by the whole situation and have told Melissa we need to find our own place. I'm truly sorry." His words gave me a small but important sense of relief. At least someone recognized how wrong their actions were. As evening approached, Rachel and Ethan helped me finish prepping for the party. My neighbors, Barbara and Tom, stopped by early to help set up the bar. We overheard some of what went down yesterday, Barbara said quietly. The workers were loud. Just so you know, we're ready to be witnesses if you need us. We watched you build this place from the ground up, Tom added firmly. We know exactly whose house this is. Their support meant more than they could ever know. By 7 o'clock, my home was ready. Not as Melissa's wedding venue or future home, but as my creation, my sanctuary, my triumph. As the first guests arrived, my phone buzzed with my father's name. I sent it straight to voicemail. Tonight was for celebration, not confrontation. The real battle would come tomorrow, and I would be ready. Sunday morning arrived heavy with the quiet aftermath of a successful party. The housewarming had been perfect. Friends and colleagues filled the rooms with laughter and sincere admiration for everything I'd built. Several noticed my family's absence, but I offered vague explanations, too raw to share the painful truth yet. I was tidying the last few glasses when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I spotted my parents' car and Melissa's SUV, parked in my driveway. Taking a deep breath, I texted Ethan and Rachel. They're here. All of them. Rachel replied immediately. Want us to come over? Not yet, I answered. I need to handle this myself first. I opened the door. There they stood. Roger's stern face, Elaine's anxious eyes, Melissa's defiant posture, and Brett looking uncomfortable. We need to talk, my father said bluntly. No greeting, no warmth. For a moment, I considered refusing, but decided it was better to face this on my own turf. Come in, I said, leading them to the living room. Let's get this over with. Once seated, I stood tall, arms crossed. Before you start, I said, voice steady, this house is mine. I have every document proving I paid for it. I have statements from Mason Rivera confirming I made all the decisions. The deed is in my name only, so if you've come to push that ridiculous family asset claim again, you're wasting your time. My father leaned forward. Natalie, I contributed significantly to this house. $50,000, I interrupted sharply, which I repaid in full 3 months ago. I have the bank records, Roger said, avoiding my gaze, and your text acknowledging receipt of the loan. That was just part of it, he insisted. There were other contributions. Name them, I challenged, voice steady but sharp. Show me a single receipt, a single transfer, a check you wrote for this house beyond that loan. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. We had an understanding, he said quietly. No, we didn't, I shot back. I reached for the folder on the side table and pulled it open. Here's the original land purchase agreement, with only my signature. I laid it on the coffee table. Here's the construction contract, signed only by me. Another document went down. Here are bank statements showing my payments for every phase of construction. And here, I continued, is the deed, solely in my name. I placed each document carefully, making eye contact. And this, I said, pulling out a typed letter, is a statement from Mason Rivera, the construction manager, confirming I was the sole client, made all decisions, and paid for everything except one loan payment from you, which I repaid in full. Elaine tried to interrupt. Natalie, it's not about paperwork. It's about family helping family. Melissa and Brett need a home. Stop, I said firmly. This isn't about what Melissa needs. This is about respect. Respect for me, for my work, for what I've achieved. If Melissa and Brett need a house, there are plenty on the market. Melissa finally spoke up, voice sharp. You've always been selfish, Natalie. Always putting yourself first. I laughed incredulously. Selfish? I'm selfish for not giving away the house I spent 5 years saving for? The one I designed and supervised every inch of building? That makes me selfish? She crossed her arms. You don't need all this space. It's just you. We're starting a family. That doesn't entitle you to my property, I said, struggling to keep my voice calm. Even if I lived in a 10-bedroom mansion alone, it would still be mine to do with as I please. My father stood, face red. That's enough. I'm tired of this attitude. I've helped you your whole life. How? I challenged. How exactly? You didn't pay for my education. You didn't support my career. You criticized my choices, dismissed my achievements, and now you're trying to take the one thing I built myself. Elaine cut in, voice soft but firm. We gave you life. We raised you. I shook my head. That was your obligation as parents. That doesn't give you ownership of everything I create as an adult, I said, turning my gaze to Melissa. And you. I found the texts on your phone, I continued, voice steady but fierce. Months of planning, photos of my house, discussions about what you'd change, treating it like it was already yours. Do you have any idea how hurtful that is? For a moment, Melissa looked ashamed. Just a flicker. But it vanished quickly. Dad said it would be fine. That you'd understand once we explained. Explained what? I demanded. That my house was being stolen? That my own family conspired behind my back? Jason, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke up. I want to be clear. I had no knowledge of this plan. He locked eyes with my father. Sir, I respect your desire to help, but I cannot and will not accept a house that clearly belongs to Natalie. It's wrong on every level. Melissa whirled on him, betrayal flashing in her eyes. Jason, we discussed this. No, he corrected firmly. You discussed it with your parents. You told me your dad was helping us find a place, not that he was giving your sister's house without her consent. A heavy silence fell. My father looked between them, clearly unprepared for this division. Well, he finally said, voice tight, if that's how you feel, Jason, maybe we need to rethink the wedding plans altogether. My mother gasped. Jason stood up, calm but resolute. With all due respect, sir, if your support depends on me accepting stolen property, then yes, we do need to reconsider. Melissa burst into tears. This is all your fault, she shouted at me. You're ruining everything. I didn't do anything except build a house, I said quietly. You're the one who tried to take it. My father began pacing, face red with anger. This house should be part of the family legacy. It's too much for one person, selfish to keep it all. It's not a family legacy, I said firmly. It's my home, the home I designed, paid for, and built. Elaine stepped forward, voice soft but insistent. Blood is thicker than water, Natalie. I shook my head. Family should come first? That's the old saying. The full one is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It means the relationships we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. And right now, the people who truly respect me and my achievements aren't the ones I'm related to. I walked to the front door and opened it. I think we're done here. I stood firm, voice steady but resolute. I've shown you every piece of documentation. I've made my position clear. This house is mine, legally and morally. If you can't accept that, then there's nothing left to discuss. My father stared at me, his eyes cold with anger. You'll regret this, Natalie. Turning your back on family is something you'll live to regret. I'm not turning my back on family, I replied evenly. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. As they moved toward the door, Melissa lingered behind. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, her voice dropped to a whisper. I've always been jealous of you, she confessed. The smart one, the successful one, the one who never needed help. I was stunned. Melissa, you could build your own special things, I said softly. You don't need to take mine. She wiped away a tear. It's not the same, she said, voice breaking. It never will be. As she left, Brett paused beside me. I'm truly sorry about all this, Natalie. I had no idea. I believe you, I told him quietly. And I'm sorry too, he added. This can't be easy for you. Once they were gone, I closed the door and leaned against it, exhausted, yet somehow lighter. The confrontation had been painful, but necessary. I stood my ground, presented my evidence, and defended my boundaries. For maybe the first time in my life, I refused to sacrifice my needs for Melissa's wants. 20 minutes later, Ethan arrived. He had stayed away at my request, but remained on standby. He wrapped me in a tight hug. How did it go? About as well as could be expected, I said, leading him to the kitchen and pouring coffee for both of us. Dad's furious. Mom's disappointed. Melissa's playing the victim. Brett's caught in the middle. And you? He studied my face carefully. I paused, then answered honestly. I'm sad. Sad it had to come to this. Sad that my own family would try to take something so important to me. But I'm also relieved. Like I finally broke free from a pattern I hadn't even fully recognized. The pattern of always giving in to Melissa. I nodded. Always putting her needs first. Always being the responsible one while she got whatever she wanted. Ethan took my hand across the counter. Well, you stood your ground this time. I'm proud of you. I smiled softly. The sad thing is, if Melissa had simply asked to have her wedding here, I probably would have said yes. But they never asked. They assumed. They plotted. They tried to take. That says everything about them, not about you, Ethan assured me, gently. As the day went on, I received messages from both Brett and my father. Brett's was apologetic, explaining that he and Melissa were having serious conversations about expectations and boundaries moving forward. My father's message was short and sharp. This discussion isn't over. But for me, it was. I had made my position clear, backed by documentation and principle. This house was mine. And for the first time in my life, I refused to give up something important just to keep the peace. That evening, I walked through every room in my villa, reconnecting with the pride and joy I'd felt before my family's attempted betrayal. In the kitchen, I ran my fingers over the smooth surface of the custom island I'd designed. The living room's floor-to-ceiling windows framed the setting sun over Lake Francis like a living painting. In my office, I sat at my drafting table, already sketching ideas for my next project. This was my home, my creation, my sanctuary, and I had fought to keep it. And from now on, I would fight for myself in every part of my life. The morning of my rescheduled housewarming dawned clear and bright. Sunlight streamed through the windows I'd designed to capture the gentle eastern light. After everything, I'd decided to host a smaller gathering, just close colleagues and neighbors who couldn't attend the first party. It felt important to reclaim my home with positive energy, to create new memories and overshadow the painful ones. As I arranged flowers on the dining table, the doorbell rang. Opening the door, I was surprised to see my father standing there, alone and looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "Just the two of us," he added. I hesitated, then stepped aside. We sat in the living room, the very spot where we'd confronted each other just days before. "This is a beautiful home, Natalie," he said, his gaze sweeping the room with what seemed like genuine appreciation. "You did an incredible job." "Thank you," I replied cautiously, waiting for the other shoe to drop. He sighed heavily and met my eyes directly. "I owe you an apology, a significant one," he said. "I had no right to promise your house to Melissa. No right to claim it as a family asset. No right to minimize your achievement in creating it." I was stunned silent. My father rarely apologized. "The truth is," he continued, "I'm in financial trouble. Business has been struggling for a couple of years. I've been keeping up appearances, but the reality is catching up with me." He looked down at his hands, voice low. "When Melissa and Brett got engaged, I promised them I'd help with a house. I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. So when you couldn't keep that promise, you decided to give them mine instead?" He nodded, eyes still on his hands. "It was wrong, completely wrong. But I convinced myself it made sense. You're single, they're starting a family. You have your career. I told myself you'd understand the practical logic of it. There's nothing logical about taking someone's home, Dad. I know that." He ran a hand through his thinning hair, sighing heavily. "I think I've always been a bit intimidated by you, Natalie. Your intelligence, your drive, your independence. You never seemed to need me the way Melissa did." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I needed you. Not financially, maybe," I added quietly. "But I needed your support, your pride in what I've accomplished." He nodded slowly. "I see that now, and I'm truly sorry. What you've built here, it's remarkable. Not just the house, but your life, your career. I should have been celebrating that with you, not trying to redirect it for Melissa's benefit." His words meant more than I expected. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "Melissa doesn't know I'm here," he said finally. "She's still upset. Your mother is too," he added, "though I think she's beginning to understand my part in creating this mess. But I needed to come here to tell you directly I was wrong, completely wrong." "Thank you," I said softly. "That means a lot." "I don't expect everything to be fixed overnight," he said, "but I hope we can work toward rebuilding trust." After he left, I sat for a long time, processing our conversation. It wasn't a full resolution. Hurt feelings and mistrust remained. But it was a start, a crack in the pattern that had defined our family for years. Later, Ethan arrived early to help with the party preparations. "Your dad was here?" he asked when I told him. "And he actually apologized?" "I'm as shocked as you are," I admitted. "But it seemed genuine. He's in financial trouble, which explains some of it, though it doesn't excuse it." "Do you forgive him?" he asked gently. I considered carefully. "I'm working on it. It's a process, not an event. But today felt like a step forward." The second housewarming party was smaller, but no less joyful than the first. My colleagues from the architectural firm admired the design details I had meticulously planned. My neighbors officially welcomed me into the community, and Rachel made sure everyone was well fed and had plenty to drink. Throughout the evening, I found myself appreciating my home in a deeper way, knowing I had fought for it and won. A week later, I received an email from Melissa. Unlike my father, she didn't apologize directly, but her message hinted at a shift. "I found a wedding venue yesterday, a restored barn overlooking the mountains. It's actually perfect for what Brett and I want, more so than your place would have been. I was wondering if you'd be willing to look at some design ideas for our first home. Not your home, our own place. Brett and I are looking at properties, and I'd value your professional opinion." It was a small olive branch, but significant coming from Melissa. I replied I'd be happy to help once they found a property and suggested meeting for coffee the following week. My mother took longer to come around. Family dynamics established over decades couldn't be reset overnight. But gradually, over several months, new, healthier patterns began to form. Family therapy gave us a neutral space to discuss expectations and boundaries. 6 months after the confrontation, I hosted a small family dinner at my house. It was the first time we'd all been together since that day. There were still moments of tension, but also genuine laughter and connection. After dinner, Melissa pulled me aside onto the deck. "Your house really is beautiful," she said, gazing at the lake, "and it's so completely you." "I see that now," I replied. "That means a lot?" "I was jealous," she admitted, "not just of the house, but of everything. Your confidence, your clarity about what you want, the way you make things happen. You can have those things too," I said sincerely, "but you have to build them yourself. No one can give them to you." She nodded slowly. "I'm learning that." Then hesitating, she added, "Brett and I found a property. Not as grand as this, but it has potential. If you're still willing to help with design ideas, I'd be honored." Later that evening, after everyone left, Ethan and I sat on the deck, enjoying the peaceful lake at night. "You know what I've learned?" I said, staring at stars reflected in the water. "What?" "Ownership isn't just about property. It's about your life, your choices, your boundaries. For years, I let my family's expectations own parts of me. I gave away my power to keep the peace." Ethan squeezed my hand. "And now? Now, I own my life completely. Just like I own this house. Not selfishly, but authentically. I'm willing to share, but not to surrender." He raised his glass. "To ownership." "To ownership," I echoed. "And to building, not just houses, but relationships that respect boundaries and celebrate achievements." In the years since finishing my villa, I faced challenges I never expected. But through it all, I found something beyond a physical home. My voice, my boundaries, and the foundation for healthier family ties. My house was more than a luxury. It was a symbol of self-worth, defended dreams, and respect earned. And that made it priceless. If you've ever faced a moment where standing your ground felt impossible, I want you to know you're not alone. This story isn't just about a house. It's about fighting for your worth, your dreams, and your peace. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with your family or loved ones? What helped you find the strength to say no? Please share your experiences and advice in the comments. It means the world to me and everyone who's walked a similar path. Together, we can support each other and build lives where respect and love coexist.